she yelled from across the street. "You can't park there. This is HOA property." Her voice cracked through the calm morning air like a siren. I just pulled up in front of the small brick house I'd bought 2 months ago. Papers still fresh, mailbox still new. I stepped out of my truck holding the coffee I hadn't even sipped yet and looked at her. She was already recording me on her phone. Blonde bob, sunglasses, tight grin. Every inch of her screamed control. I said quietly, "Ma'am, this is my driveway." She laughed. "Oh, really? That's cute. We don't allow tenants here. The HOA board didn't approve you." She walked closer, waving a piece of paper like a badge. It was a fake notice stamped with something that looked official but wasn't. "Vacate immediately, or we'll call the authorities." I could feel my hands tighten around the coffee cup, not from fear but from disbelief. I'd heard stories about people like her, self-appointed rulers of the neighborhood, but I didn't think I'd meet one this fast. Before I could answer, a silver SUV rolled up. 2 men stepped out, both in polo shirts that said community security. No badges, no real uniforms. One of them said, "Sir, you're trespassing. Step away from the vehicle." I almost laughed. "Trespassing? On my own land?" Karen crossed her arms and smirked. "Told you. People like him don't belong here. Go ahead, take him in." My pulse slowed instead of rising. I knew something she didn't, something none of them knew. I reached into my jacket, slowly, calmly, and pulled out my phone. I started recording. "Before you put your hands on me," I said, "you should probably check who owns this property." Karen rolled her eyes. "We own this neighborhood, sweetie." I smiled for the first time. "No," I said softly. "You really don't." The fake security guy took one more step forward, hand on his belt like he had authority. That's when I pulled a small badge from my pocket. Not a police badge, not military. A golden seal engraved with my name. Her face froze the second she read the words. District Judge, State of Texas. And just like that, her smile vanished. Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. For a second, even the fake guards hesitated, eyes darting from my badge to her face. I could hear the sprinklers from the next yard hissing, the only sound cutting through that heavy silence. I slipped the badge back into my pocket and said calmly, "Now, why don't you tell me again? Who owns this place?" Her tone shifted fast. "Oh, that must be a misunderstanding," she stammered. "I just thought, HOA procedures." "Procedures," I cut in. "Because from what I see, you just threatened to have me arrested on property that's legally mine." I tapped the camera, still recording in my hand. "And you brought fake security to do it." The taller guard muttered, "Ma'am, I think we should go." But she spun toward him, furious. "No, he's lying. He forged those papers. I know the previous owner. He told me this lot isn't for sale." That caught my attention. I'd bought the house through a court sale after a foreclosure. The previous owner hadn't shown up, but hearing her mention him, it didn't feel random. Something was off. "Funny," I said. "You seem to know a lot about everyone's business here." Her eyes narrowed. "That's my job. I protect this neighborhood from people who don't belong." I took a slow step forward. "And who made you the law?" She smiled again, that same thin, snake-like grin, and whispered, "People like me don't need permission." Then she pointed behind me. A black and white patrol car had just pulled in. Real cops this time. My stomach sank for a second. Not because I was guilty, but because I knew how these things looked. "A report, a loud neighbor, a man accused of trespassing." The officers got out, hands already near their holsters. Karen waved at them like she'd just summoned backup. "That's him," she yelled. "He broke in. He's been threatening me." My jaw clenched. She was lying so smoothly it almost sounded rehearsed. The younger cop turned to me. "Sir, can I see some ID?" I handed it over, still silent. He looked down, then back up at me. His brows pulled together. "Wait, Judge Daniels?" Karen froze again. He looked at her. "Ma'am, is this the man you're accusing of trespassing?" She tried to laugh it off, but her voice trembled. I didn't know who he was. He looked suspicious." The officer sighed and said quietly, "You just filed a false police report on a sitting judge." I watched her pale. The fake security guards had already stepped back, wanting no part of it. But what none of them knew, what I hadn't told anyone yet, was that I wasn't just moving in. I was here because this HOA had been under investigation for months. and I'd just walked into the middle of it. Karen's confidence cracked like glass. Her lips trembled as she tried to keep her smile steady, but it was gone. The officers started asking questions, writing things down, while the fake security men disappeared quietly toward their SUV. I didn't stop them. I wanted them to think they had escaped. One of the officers turned to me. "Judge Daniels, do you want to press charges for harassment?" I shook my head. "Not yet," I said. "Let her talk." Karen blinked fast. "Talk about what?" "I didn't do anything wrong. He just showed up out of nowhere." I kept my voice calm. "Karen, your HOA has been on my radar for a while. We've received complaints. Illegal fines, forged notices, threats to homeowners. I came here because I wanted to see how deep it goes." She went silent, completely still. Then she whispered, "You can't prove anything." I smiled faintly. "I don't need to prove it right now." I pointed toward my truck. "My dash cam has been recording since I pulled in. Your fake cops, your threats, your false call, all of it." The officer's pen froze midair. Karen's eyes darted toward the car like she was calculating how to destroy it. "You set me up," she hissed. "No," I said softly. "You set yourself up." She stepped closer, her tone switching from fear to fury. "You think you can just walk in here and take over? We run this place. We decide who belongs. And you'll have plenty of time to explain that," I said, to a real judge. For a second, I thought she might lunge at me, her jaw locked, her hands shaking. But instead, she laughed. A cold, fake laugh that made the hair on my neck rise. "You have no idea what you've stepped into," she said. "You think I'm the problem? There's someone above me, someone who owns this HOA, and he doesn't like people digging into his money." The officers glanced at each other. I could see doubt forming, not about me, but about what she'd just said. I asked quietly, "Who's above you, Karen?" She leaned closer and whispered, "You'll find out soon, but when you do, it'll be too late." Then she smiled again, that same crooked grin, almost proud of her madness. As the officers led her to the patrol car, I noticed something in her hand, a small silver key glinting under the sun. She slipped it into her pocket before they cuffed her, pretending I didn't see it, and somehow deep down, I knew that key was going to unlock something I wasn't ready for. That night, the neighborhood looked too quiet, the kind of quiet that feels planned. The patrol car had taken Karen away, but I couldn't shake the image of that silver key. I sat in my truck, scrolling through the dash cam footage, every second clear. Her fake notice, the phony security, her panic when I mentioned the investigation. Everything was there. Still, one line kept replaying in my head. Someone above me. He owns this HOA. I decided to dig deeper. At midnight, I walked toward the small HOA office near the community park. The place looked abandoned, just a dim light inside and the faint buzz of an old refrigerator. The door was locked, of course, but the window blinds didn't quite shut, and I could see a desk covered in files and a laptop still open. I shouldn't have gone in. But curiosity has its own gravity. I picked the back latch, something my years in law enforcement before becoming a judge had taught me, and stepped inside. The air smelled like paper and cheap air freshener. I went straight for the desk, scrolling through the open laptop. It didn't take long to find something strange. Fake HOA invoices, duplicate payment lists, and property transfer documents with forged signatures. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees redirected to a private account. And then I saw a name. The same name listed as the developer representative on every file, Daniel Crow. My stomach dropped. Crow was no random guy. He was a real estate mogul I'd sentenced 3 years ago for property fraud. He'd been released early, supposedly reformed. Karen hadn't been lying. She was just the puppet. I heard a faint sound outside, our footsteps slow and heavy. Someone was watching. I quickly copied the files onto my flash drive, shut the laptop, and killed the lights. Through the window, I could see the shape of a man standing by my truck. He wasn't a cop, not a neighbor either. Broad shoulders, shaved head, talking on a phone, scanning the street. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. When I answered, the voice was low and calm. "Judge Daniels, you shouldn't be in that office. Who is this?" I asked. He chuckled. "Let's just say I'm the one Karen warned you about. You've got something that belongs to me." I looked at the flash drive in my hand. "Return it," he said. "And maybe we forget tonight ever happened." "And if I don't?" He paused for a moment. Then maybe your nice little property burns before sunrise. The call ended. I stared out the window. The man was gone. Only the quiet hum of the streetlights remained. But just as I turned to leave, something caught my eye. A small metal box under the desk, locked. And the lock looked like it matched Karen's silver key. I barely slept that night. My mind kept circling back to that silver key, the one Karen tried to hide when she was arrested. By morning, I was at the county impound where the cops had parked her car. It took a few quiet favors and one serious look for them to hand me her belongings bag. Inside, mixed with her phone and wallet, was the key. Cold, smooth, heavier than it looked. I drove straight to the HOA office again, this time in daylight. The place was still taped off, but I had jurisdiction now. Technically, I was the one handling the investigation. I locked the door behind me, dropped to one knee and slid the key into the small metal box under the desk. It clicked open with a sound that felt too loud for the quiet room. Inside were printed photographs, some yellowed, some recent, pictures of houses, people, license plates. One folder had my name on it. Inside that folder, a photo of me standing in front of my old courthouse, one of my son walking home from school, and another, and from last week, of me buying the very house I was standing in now. My blood went cold. They'd been watching me before I even moved in. There was a phone inside the box too, old and cracked, still charged. I scrolled through the messages. Each one was from a contact saved as C. The most recent message read, "Judge moved in. HOA pawn triggered." Another one a week before. "Make sure the sale looks clean. He won't suspect anything." It hit me, this wasn't random. I wasn't investigating them by accident. They'd led me here. The phone buzzed suddenly, new message, same contact, you opened it. Now we talk, my heart kicked hard. I turned toward the window and froze. Across the street, a black sedan was parked, tinted windows, engine running. Then my front door creaked. I wasn't alone anymore. "Judge Daniels," a voice called softly. Male, calm, deliberate. "You should have stayed in your courtroom." I grabbed the flash drive, pocketed the key, and pressed myself against the wall. The sound of shoes on tile came closer. Slow, confident steps. "You think Karen was bad?" the voice continued. "She was just the voice we let you hear. We've been watching you for months. We wanted you here," I whispered back. "Why?" "To clean something up for us," he said. "And to see how far a man like you will go when he realizes the system he trusts is owned." He stopped moving. Silence. Then the door shut again. I waited, listening. No footsteps, no sound of retreating tires, just that suffocating stillness. When I finally stepped outside, the sedan was gone, but a small envelope was wedged under my wiper blade. Inside, a single line written in red ink. "You can't shut us down, Judge, we built the law." By the next morning, something inside me had shifted. Fear turned into focus. They wanted to scare me into silence. But that envelope only confirmed one thing. I'd struck a nerve. I drove straight to the courthouse, walked past the marble steps I'd climbed 100 times before, and went down to a floor most people didn't know existed, the records room for sealed federal cases. I still had clearance, barely. My old friend, Detective Ruiz, was on duty there. He looked up, half asleep with a coffee in hand. "Daniels," he muttered. "Didn't expect to see you here before sunrise." "I need to run a name," I said, sliding the flash drive across the counter. "Daniel Crow. Cross-check with real estate fraud, HOA subsidiaries, anything linked to shell companies." Ruiz frowned. "Crow? Thought that guy vanished after his release." "Yeah," I said quietly. "Turns out he just changed uniforms." He plugged in the drive, scrolling through the files I'd copied. His eyes widened after a few seconds. "Jesus. This isn't just one HOA. He's got 40 of them under fake boards. Millions in fees laundered through maintenance accounts. All under the name of a development trust in Nevada. Can we trace it?" He nodded slowly. "We can. But if he's watching you, he already knows you're here." That's when I saw it. A black SUV pulling up outside the courthouse window. Same tint, same quiet engine. I turned to Ruiz. "I need you to get this data somewhere safe. Cloud server, encrypted. Don't use government systems," he started typing fast. "You planning to disappear?" "No," I said. "I'm planning to end this. Back home, I didn't park in the driveway. I parked 2 blocks away and walked. My house looked untouched, no sign of entry. But the mailbox flag was up. Inside, another envelope. No threats this time, no red ink. Just a small flash drive and a note. We can help each other. 10 p.m. Community Center. I almost tossed it, but curiosity won again. I plugged the drive into my laptop and saw a single video file. It opened with grainy footage from a security camera. Crow sitting in a boardroom surrounded by men in suits, and right next to him was someone I recognized instantly. A judge, my colleague. The same man who'd signed off on Crow's early release. That hit like a punch. It wasn't just corruption. It was systemic. At 10 p.m., I went to the community center. The place was dark, empty, only one room lit. Inside stood a woman I hadn't seen before, tall, confident, no fear in her eyes. "You're not Crow," I said. She smiled. "No, but I work for people who make sure he stays out of prison." She tossed a folder onto the table. "You walk away, Judge. You resign quietly, you move out, and this all disappears. Or you stay, and we ruin you like the others." I looked her straight in the eye. "You don't understand. I'm not like the others." Her smirk didn't fade. "We'll see." She turned to leave, but as she reached the door, I said, "You forgot something." She paused. "What's that?" "The part where I already sent everything to the state attorney's office an hour ago." For the first time, her face cracked. Just slightly. Then she whispered, "You just made yourself a target." She walked out, calm, quiet, leaving the folder behind. Inside were photos, my house again, my truck, my son, and a single line scribbled in black marker. "The next move is ours." Rain started that night, thick and heavy, hammering against the windows like warning knocks. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the folder she left behind. Every photo of my son made my hands tighten until the paper nearly tore. They'd crossed a line. This wasn't just corruption anymore, this was personal. I knew Crow wouldn't hide behind letters or proxies for long. Men like him always wanted control, face to face. That meant he'd come soon. And if he didn't, I'd go to him. At midnight, my phone buzzed again. "No caller ID," I answered, voice steady. "You made quite the mess, Judge." Crow's voice rasped, deeper than I remembered. "You think that little upload scared anyone? You've only painted a target on your back." I leaned back in the chair, calm. "You should have stayed retired, Crow, because now every federal agency in this state has your name on a file." He laughed quietly. "You don't understand how deep this goes. Those agencies? I own half the people running them." He paused. "But I'll give you one last chance, or hand over the files, or your boy pays for your pride." That sentence broke something in me. "You touch him," I said quietly, "and I swear, every wall you've built will fall on top of you." Before he could answer, I hung up and then called Ruiz. "We need to move my son tonight, don't tell anyone where." Ruiz didn't ask questions. "Already ahead of you. He's safe." I looked out the window, the same black sedan was back, parked 2 houses down. I'd been followed home. I turned off all the lights and walked to the back door, pulling the .45 I kept locked under the stairs. I hadn't touched it since my years as a marshal, but tonight, the weight felt familiar. Outside, the rain had slowed. I could see a shadow inside the sedan, someone watching, waiting. I stepped closer, quiet, each breath steady. Then the passenger door opened. A man stepped out, face hidden under a hood, holding something that glimmered under the streetlight. I raised my gun. That's far enough. He froze. Then, without warning, headlights flashed from the other end of the street. Another car speeding straight toward me. I jumped aside as it screeched to a stop. Doors burst open. 2 men rushed out, shouting. Before they could reach me, a siren wailed behind them. Loud, sharp, cutting through the night. Ruiz's unmarked cruiser skidded around the corner, lights flashing. The 2 men ran. I fired once into the air, enough to freeze them. Ruiz's team tackled them seconds later. When I reached the sedan, the one who'd been watching me was gone, just the door swinging in the wind. On the front seat, an envelope. Inside, one photo, blurry, taken from far away, of me and Ruiz standing together that very morning. Scrawled across it were 3 words. "You're both marked." Ruiz looked at me, jaw tight. "They're not done, are they?" I shook my head slowly. "No, but neither am I." The storm broke just before dawn, leaving the streets washed clean but heavy with the smell of mud and gasoline. I hadn't slept. Neither had Ruiz. We sat in my kitchen surrounded by files, maps, and photos, the walls looking more like a war room than a home. Every thread we pulled led back to the same thing: crow's web of HOA fronts, fake boards, and dirty judges. Ruiz slammed his fist on the table. We've got enough to bury him. We just need him in one place long enough to prove it. I nodded. He's arrogant. He'll show up if he thinks he's untouchable. And that's exactly what we gave him. Bait. We sent a message through one of his old shell companies pretending to negotiate a deal for my silence. Ruiz traced the response within an hour. Crow agreed to meet at an unfinished development on the edge of town. No security cameras. No neighbors. Just dirt, wind, and half-built homes. At dusk we pulled in. The sky looked bruised, orange fading into steel gray. Crow was already there, leaning against a black Range Rover, expensive suit, smug grin. "Well," he said, spreading his arms. "The man of the hour. The judge who thought he could outplay the system." I stepped closer, unarmed this time. "You built a kingdom on fear, Crow. It ends tonight." He laughed. "You don't get it, Daniels. I don't just own the system, I am the system." Behind him I could see two men standing by the car, armed, alert. Ruiz was hidden somewhere behind the construction trailers, waiting for my signal. Crow's tone turned sharp. "Hand over the files." I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out a flash drive, and held it between two fingers. "You want it? Come take it." He stepped forward just as Ruiz's voice echoed through a megaphone. "FBI, drop your weapons." Crow froze. His guards panicked, reaching for their guns, but Ruiz's team swarmed out from every corner, red and blue lights flooding the dirt lot. Crow turned to me, disbelief written all over his face. "You set me up?" I looked him dead in the eyes. "No, Crow. You set yourself up when you went after my son." He lunged forward, trying to grab the flash drive, but the agents tackled him hard to the ground. The impact echoed through the empty neighborhood. Dust rose. Shouts filled the air. When they finally cuffed him, Ruiz handed me a small recording device. "Got everything," he said. "The confession's clear." Crow spat dirt and fury, glaring up at me. "You think this changes anything? There's always another me." I crouched down beside him, calm and steady. "Maybe. But now there's also me." He sneered. "You won't survive this." I smiled faintly. I already did. They dragged him away, his threats fading into the sirens. As the sun finally broke through the clouds, Ruiz clapped my shoulder. "You did it, Judge. It's over." I watched the flashing lights disappear down the road. "It's not over," I said quietly. "It's just finally honest." The next week, every major news network ran the same headline: "Corrupt HOA empire brought down by undercover judge." Karen's fake authority, Crow's empire, every forged signature, gone. I stood on my porch that evening, the air still, the street peaceful for the first time in months. My son ran up beside me, handing me a cold soda, grinning. "You gonna sell this place now, Dad?" I looked around the yard, the same one that started it all, and shook my head. "No, son. We fought for this land. We keep it." He laughed. "Even with the crazy neighbors?" I smiled. "Especially because of them." The flag above the porch fluttered in the soft wind, and for the first time the silence felt earned,